If they go on to high school, which is called gymnasium, there's 13 levels, and from there they would track into university. But there is a lot of actually swapping around. There is the ability to do that. I know a lot of people hear that it's really hard to do. We heard both sides of that. So I think it really depends on where you are. But the students kind of determine early a little bit more about what they want to do with their lives. And they actually start them on week-long internships in companies at about 7th and 8th grade as well. So they get a lot of early exposure to careers and what those choices might be. So the system is based on the idea that training on the job and learning in the classroom should be completely intertwined. And we saw that throughout our time there. Students start into this dual system of VET training at as young as 15. And so they may have graduated from Hauptschule or Realschule, and they are actually hired by a company. So they are under contract by the company to work and go to school at the same time. And of course, they're not paid full salary like a full-time employee, but they are paid a salary. And they know they are there to both learn and work, and they also learn the soft skills right along with the hard skills, the technical skills, because they're in the job environment. And so the companies set up training centers. Some of the larger companies will train, 50 apprentices at one time. Not all 50 might stay at that company. Some might go to other companies. But another interesting thing that we heard all along, and we asked this many times, is, are you worried about, investing in these students and training them for them to just leave after they've finished the program? Because we hear that a lot here. We didn't hear that at all. So that was really interesting. They talked a lot about the loyalty and the bond that it creates for them to do these programs with the vocational schools. Generally, the programs are about 2 to 3.5 years long, and they will take exams along the way, and there is a final exam. Something like 93% of students who go through these programs complete them successfully and graduate and get their what's called a Muster, their diploma, essentially. One of the key tenets of the program, and I won't spend a lot of time on this, is that there's a great partnership set up with the government. So it's a public-private partnership. And I have a great graphic here. Wish I could show you. But so government provides kind of the regulatory part of it, and there are something like, I think it's 327 recognized training occupations, and those are actually codified in law. And so the government has a part in establishing what training programs there are and what those look like in terms of what the students learn. The public part of that is that the schools and the companies also play a big part in determining what's included in those programs and how they change over time. They meet on a regular basis to review the programs and determine, are there new things happening that we need to incorporate? So for example, at Siemens, we heard that they're now incorporating low coding and green skills into some of their occupational trainings. So that's it's a nice partnership. And then the companies, obviously, they have a huge part to play. They train the students. They pay their trainers to train the students, and they obviously pay for equipment and space for them to learn, and they pay those employees while they're there. And then there's the chambers, which are actually there's a mandatory membership, and so all the companies have to be members of the chambers, and the chambers kind of do the oversight piece. So they kind of look at initiating new training programs, validating that the trainings are still accurate, et cetera. So that partnership and those well-defined roles are a key part of the system in Germany. We went to one chamber, which is the one in Bavaria. It's for Munich and Upper Bavaria. And they said that they have about 10 to 15,000 contracts with apprentices at any given time. So they have 400,000 companies, I believe, that belong to the chamber. And it is a chamber of industry and commerce, which I'll just explain really quickly. There's multiple chambers. Industry and commerce represents about 60% of companies. Then there's some other chambers that do things like maybe somebody making furniture in their home, or doing more like handiwork is what they call it, or agriculture or some other things. But the industry and commerce ones represent about 60% of companies. They are also tasked with integrating refugees, and they talked to us a little bit about that, sort of as a side note, but they had a goal. They've got a lot of refugees entering Germany over the last several years. They had a goal of integrating about 60,000 into the labor market by 2018 or 2019, and they met that goal in 2018. So they've been doing a lot of work with integrating refugees. The biggest challenge there is definitely language skills, and it takes longer. They are putting them through the VET program as well. And another kind of basic thing about the VET program is it's not just maybe what we traditionally think of as vocational education. It's not just construction and production and electrical. It's like business and accounting and customer service and restaurant servers, and all these are actually vocational occupations there. So we also visited an arm of the government side of things is called a Fraunhofer Institute, and the closest thing in the U.S. to those is probably called the Manufacturing USA Institutes. And so they are tasked with research and trying to get technology into the hands of private industry. And so they do grant-funded research projects, and they actually had done a project with a large carbon composite manufacturer a few years ago, where they actually did a pilot program on apprenticeships in South Korea, and still have about 5 or 6 companies participating in that, and that worked really well. And Fraunhofer Institute worked with them through a grant to do that project. There's also an employment agency that works with students and people coming into the work age on career counseling. So that's part of the government side. Then we went to about 3 different vocational organizations, and they teach anything from, the one that we went to in Bavaria teaches mechatronics, electronics technicians, production technology, those types of things. And the most exciting thing I saw there was that they had 3D printers in the classrooms. They had a classroom full of collaborative robots, which if you come over there, you'll see that we have one on display later in the networking part of the evening. And so they're really trying to incorporate all the new technologies that their companies need really early in the game. We saw a few final projects that the students do their last year, but most of those are actually done in the company specifically for whatever it is that they're working on. So again, it's a part of the system where the vocational training is thought of as the theoretical training, and then what they're doing in the workplace is taking that theory and linking it to practice, and really kind of bringing home what it is they're learning in the classroom. We also saw a campus where they have a VET program for youth with disabilities. So that was a great thing. I think they have over 400 students living there on campus and going through the VET program. The companies that we visited included Siemens, which of course is a huge global corporation who has trained thousands of apprenticeships over many years. And then the smallest company that we visited was about 110 employees, and they were founded in 1925. They build conveyors, hoppers, and then a whole nother side of their business is rubber floor mats for dairy cows, because dairy cows need rubber floor mats to produce more milk. So didn't know that. And about 50% of their sales are into the U.S. They have had over 180 apprentices complete their program. So with 110 employees, over 30 of those still are former apprentices, and they're training anywhere from, 5 to 10 at a time. And they have had huge success with it. And one of the things that we heard over and over also, we asked, how much does this cost the company? Because they have to invest in it quite a bit. They pay their chamber membership, they pay the trainers to do the training, they pay the trainees, the apprentices, and then they have to provide the space and the equipment and everything else. And several of them gave us a number of about $100,000 a year it cost them to have an apprentice. And every single company we talked to said it was absolutely worth it. Not a question in their mind. So that was pretty interesting. We went to BMW, their headquarters, and one of their production facilities in Munich, which was amazing. It's highly automated. So what we saw there was a lot of robots, and then the people who are working in the facility, they still have hundreds of people who work in that facility, but they're mostly tending the robots and doing those higher level skills, maybe not programming, but definitely watching and kind of guiding what the robots are doing, moving things around occasionally. But it was really interesting to see how automated they are, and yet their apprentice program starts with basic machining, electrical systems, the same things that you would see taught here, only they're also teaching them a lot of the higher technology skills as well. We also went to a company called BSH, which was started as a collaboration between Bosch and Siemens many years ago. They make household appliances. They're now wholly owned by Bosch. They're still making about 12,000 dishwashers per day. So that was pretty fascinating as well. They have quite a bit of automation, but they also have a lot of people in the production facility. They actually had a female apprentice leader, manager, and they talked to us about the fact that they really want to get more females into manufacturing as well. They're really proud of the fact that she had come through the apprenticeship program, had stayed with them, is now leading the apprenticeship program, and that was some of the things that they saw that could be improved with the system that they have in Germany is more female apprentices, for one. So they have some of the same challenges that we do in the US, for sure. A couple other companies, probably the favorite at the end of the week was a brewery founded in 1386. It's actually on the list of the oldest companies in the world, and it's right in Augsburg. And the brewmaster there, he was fantastic. He took us through all the processes. They have a few apprentices, maybe 3 or 4 at a time. Again, when they complete the program there, they don't necessarily have a job for them. It's a pretty small operation still, but he said, our apprentices are family, and anybody who can't find a job after they finish apprenticing with us, I will create a job for them until they can. So it was amazing to hear the loyalty and to hear them talk about the bond that is created. And I remember, Ken, you mentioned that retention went up to like 100% after you guys started training, and that clicked with me about when I was thinking about the brew house, especially because they just don't have the problem with turnover. So the few things that I thought were kind of the key elements that we can maybe think about implementing in Montana, or I don't know if implementing is the right word, because especially through all the conversation today, I keep hearing the same themes that we all heard when we were in Germany. I think we have all the parts and pieces in place, and we just need to keep building on those. So, the collaboration. Montana is a state with a huge amount of collaboration. We have great resources for companies. We already have tons of wonderful programs in place. But building on those and making sure that our kids are learning about the careers that are available to them at a really early age, like getting them into internships, getting them out of the school and into the companies even earlier and even for longer periods of time, I think are some of the things that have made the program so successful in Germany. And the other thing is also, I think we were all very impressed with the level of maturity, and so much of that comes from having that responsibility and accountability of being in the workplace and having a job to do, as well as being trained and understanding that you're on a contract to do this. You have to show up on time, you have to do your job. It's important to the company, and having that ingrained in the culture, and just having the companies creating this culture of continuous learning. So I think having the apprentices there sort of creates this culture of everyone continuing to learn and develop. We saw that throughout the time we were there as well. And having investment and commitment to our people development just be something that we're very committed to. Another thing that one of my colleagues said is speed is the enemy of success, because we do tend to want things right away, and getting people to learn and grow and create that bond is something that takes time. And I think that is something that is part of their program as well, is understanding that they're not going to come to you day one ready to hit the floor running as much as you might want them to. You have to, it's a process. The other thing I wrote down earlier that Lance said that I don't know where Lance is now, but you said, you measure success in smiles. That's your metric. And there you go. These employees, these apprentices in Germany, when they go through the program, we saw every single one of them just so happy to be there. So that was another thing that really hit home with me. All right, well, I apologize that you didn't get the pictures, but you will later, and thank you for your time. Does anybody have a question? I'm no expert on German apprenticeship program, but I'm happy to answer a question. Okay.
I was hoping that I could point the finger to all of our problems to the school systems and say, you're the problem, but the reality is that some of what you're saying is that it's the businesses and the schools working in a partnership to create a successful future for those kids. Is that kind of what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying. I want to say that's probably the key element, is that they're so intertwined. The vocational education and training dual system over there, just from day one, the companies and the educational organizations, whatever they may be, they're doing this together. And there's lots of different models, so it's not like it has to be a single model. Even in Germany, where things are highly regulated, they start out, I think a lot of the VET programs are, you go to work 3 days a week and you go to school 2 days a week. But we heard all kinds of variations of that too. So there were some students who were going 3 months to work, and then they would go 3 months to school. And that was actually a student who was doing university studies at the same time. So it's a variation on the traditional apprenticeship program. But yes, in answer to your question, I think that's key. Thank you.